14 years ago, James Hodgkinson was hit with a single punch on a night out in Nottingham. 9 days later, he died because of a bleed on the brain.
After a prison sentence, the teenager who threw that punch, Jacob Dunn, went on to meet James's parents. Incredibly, they've formed a bond that's been made into a play that's now on Broadway as well as London's West End. Jacob joins us now alongside James's dad, David Hodgkinson. Jacob, David, welcome.
Morning.
Even though this isn't a play in the West End and lots of people, have heard about this, many of our audience won't know what happened on that night other than what we've briefly just told them. I know you two have spoken together before about this, and I just wonder if I just kind of hand it over to you and just tell us about that evening.
Well, I guess if I start off that evening, we'd been out to test cricket and out for a few drinks afterwards. And they were down at Marketplace, bar called Yates. And James was outside talking to a group of lads, and at that point, Jacob, through a total misunderstanding of information that he'd been given, came in and hit James. And James was knocked unconscious, fell to the ground, and the impact on the concrete caused severe trauma to his brain. And 9 days later, we had to switch off his life support.
Jacob?
Yeah, exactly how David said it.
A misunderstanding,
I was given false information, that there was conflict happening. I was, not the nicest young man back then, and ran in, had a bit of a thirst for drama, and threw a single punch without realising the consequences that a single punch can have, and then ran away from the scene and thought nothing of it.
It's just important because we will talk about where you are now, which is an extraordinary thing. The two of you sit here together speaking. But just complete the picture for us, because you handed yourself in.
Yeah. And
you faced justice, and you're in prison for, was it 30 months?
I got sentenced to 30 months for manslaughter. The charge originally was murder. It got dropped to manslaughter. And then I spent my time in a Young Offenders Institute. And in that time, David and Joan, James's parents, were wanting to find out what I was doing. But I served my time and got out. I didn't know what was going on outside. I didn't really think about the impact of the crime, because I found it very difficult to think about what it's like to yeah.
OK, so, David, pick up on the story in relation to your reaching out, because this is you and your wife, Joan.
Yes,
the thought process
Joan,
there.
yes.
What was the thought process? Because you were grieving, obviously.
Yes, and the main problem was we couldn't get any answers. We didn't know why Jacob had attacked James. And we exhausted every other route. And our victim support chap at the time said, well, there is this thing called restorative justice. We never heard of restorative justice. And he said, no guarantees. It's a total voluntary thing for both sides. Do you want to go down that road and just try it? And we'd given up, nothing else was working. So we thought, right, maybe we can get the answers. And Jacob was the only person that could give us those answers. Mm. So that was the main reason. So you could say, in a way, it was a selfish reason that we started the process, because we wanted answers that we couldn't get. We moved forward from that point.
And Jacob, what do you remember of that? I don't know, the first encounter or the earlier encounters when you were meeting?
Well, I just remember they became real people. And the problem with prison is that we lock the people up and throw away the key, and they never really face the harm or appreciate the consequences of their actions. And coming out of custody, hearing that David and Joan were real people and they wanted to speak to me and they wanted to ask me questions and they wanted to express the harm I caused, made me that I couldn't be ignorant anymore. And then the least I could do, gave me a window to do a good deed, try and help David and Joan by answering their questions. I didn't think it would help me, really, but I thought, if I can at least help David and Joan with those questions, I am the only person that has the answer, then I don't want to withhold that information. I want to try and help them with that little small gesture of answering a couple of questions, but then we didn't know it would take us to where we are now, and the work that we've been doing over the last decade.
Well, your smiles tell a great story. I mean, I know it's been quite a few years now, but take us through what it is that you do together now.
Well, the main thing we're trying to do now is make it a legal right that people will be given the information, a victim will be given the information. If the perpetrator, they know who the perpetrator is, that victim will be given information about restorative justice, so that they have the opportunity to get the benefits that we've got from having done the restorative justice journey. It's got to be voluntary on both sides. That's very important to say that. And yes, it might not work, but there can be instances where, just like myself, you couldn't get answers, you didn't understand why this particular person had done something to you. And the fact that you can engage with them, if they're willing to engage, both sides gain, because the perpetrator also gains in that they see a person and what they've done to that person. And maybe that will stop them reoffending.
Can I ask you, David, before this tragedy happened, losing your son...
Yes.
If you'd asked yourself, would you have it within you to do what you've done now, do you think you would have said that? Because you've been on a huge learning curve about restorative justice and how it can work.
Yes.
But a lot of people watching this think, I could never do what you've done. I would forever be angry. I would forever be resentful.
I think that's a good question, Charlie, and I would say, no, probably no. Before that happened, I'd probably say, no, I couldn't have done that. I think that's a very good question. But the way the process is done, and the very experienced facilitators that take you through this process, and they're never going to put a victim and perpetrator together until they know it's the right time, is a very skilled way that it's done. But it's a good question to ask, and people would say, well, how have you done this? And when they come and watch the play, and it's very emotional, and you have people in the audience crying, and I think people do wonder, yes, how have you done that? But it is such a great benefit, and we feel that it's going to be a real tool in the armoury of the criminal justice system.
Yes, definitely.
You met yesterday David Lammy.
Yeah.
Justice Secretary, Deputy Prime Minister. What did he say? What was he asking you? What did he say?
Yeah.
What were you pushing for?
He was asking about the campaign. For those that are watching, if you want to give victims the right to be heard, feel free to go to RightToBeHeard.org. And David Lammy said he's a big supporter of restorative justice and the principles of restorative justice, and that he'll speak with the Ministry of Justice to see whether or not it's something that they can help us with. We've tabled an amendment yesterday to the Victims and Courts Bill, so if anybody wants to write to their MP and ask them to sponsor our amendment, we'd much appreciate that. And yeah, I just, you know, it's just important for me to make sure that we give all victims of crime a choice and a voice, and we listen to them, and we try to understand what their needs are, and offer them restorative justice. And because often the justice system doesn't always do justice.
He took time out of his very busy schedule to see us, and he was very positive.
He was, yeah.
Just to be clear, it's because it was something that you turned to after trying lots of other things, and
yes.
you'd hit a brick wall. And
yes.
what you want is for people who are victims of crime
yes.
to be able to have that as an option at the beginning.
That's right, Nagra. I think that at the moment, while everybody has the right to restorative justice, if you don't know about restorative justice, you're not going to ask for the information, and it's not set that the information has to be given. So
yeah.
that is the big stumbling block.
Our amendment is making sure that everybody gets given information about their rights at all stages of the justice process, so that they can make informed choices as to the support that they need.
I mean, it's really significant that you're sitting here both together. I just want to, I mean, how does it feel sitting here now, you know, in front of the cameras talking about it? So it's, what does it feel like?
Well, the whole journey has been just so surreal, really, when you sort of think that we've got, you know, a play going on in the West End. We've got a play on the same play on Broadway at the same time, and it's been over a long period of years that we've got to this point we're at. It is very strange, and when we started the process, we never would have
never imagined it. No.
This is what we'd be doing.
Yeah, we were on a train from London for a few hours yesterday, we can talk as much as we like, but just the fact that we're both sat here, both respect each other. I have huge admiration for this man. He's the bravest, most courageous man I've ever met.
Really lovely.